name is Joe Inslee, and this is episode 6 of Things Jesus Said, and we're going to look at Mark chapter 6. But I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe to my channel and like this video and share it with your friends. Mark chapter 6, verse 37, Jesus says this, "You give them something to eat." Now, I want to look at the context of this passage and see what's going on. Now, Mark is one of my favorite books of the Bible. In fact, I started reading Mark when I was new to pastoral ministry, and I was kind of getting a little bit of that fatigue that comes along with doing ministry. And I read Mark and I was encouraged by Mark because Jesus sets the benchmark for self-care and how to do ministry. Every time you read Mark, Jesus is going off to a mountain to be by himself. I love going to mountains and I love being by myself. So we're kind of getting along here. But Jesus is constantly kind of taking care of himself while sacrificing and living generously, and I think he found the perfect balance. So I love Mark for that reason. But this is an episode where Jesus sacrifices his self-care for the good of someone else. So what's happened is Jesus has completed a whole bunch of stuff. There have been some miracles, people have been healed, and he says he was tired and he needed to withdraw. So he's withdrawing away, but the people follow him anyway. And when I say some people followed him, I mean 5,000 hungry critters here. We know from the passage that Jesus was tired. As fully man, he's probably a little overwhelmed by the tasks of ministries. There's some fatigue going on. Jesus needs a nap. If it was 2020, we'd
say he's prescribed some Netflix and chill.
But Jesus is withdrawn to be by himself, and he's presented with 5,000 hungry people. And so the disciples bring to him and they say, they're hungry. We need to send them away to go get some food, Lord. And Jesus says, no, you need to feed them. And the disciples kind of scoff and they say, what? This is a 200 denarii kind of problem, Jesus. We can't fix that. Now, for perspective, 200 denarii, 1 denarii is a day's wages for a Roman soldier back in these times. So 200 denarii, you're looking at about 8 months of pay for a citizen that might even be making slightly higher than average wages. So a 200 denarii problem
is a big problem.
And the disciples say, what do you want us to do? Solve a 200 denarii problem, Jesus? And Jesus is like, nah, we're going to use what we have. What do we got around here? And it comes up with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. I love the responsibility shift here. So we have Jesus, who's tired and overwhelmed and has a 5,000 hungry people problem put in front of him. And the disciples' solution to the problem is honestly a logical one. So think about if you're at one of the big preaching conventions, all right, or any kind of convention, and they break for lunch, and they say, all right, here's all the places that are open, and you can go to the cafeteria, but the line's kind of long. And so you spread out, and you go figure out your lunch, right? That's what should have happened. This was a Jesus conference, and you'd break for lunch, and that's what's supposed to happen. But instead of breaking for lunch and sending everyone out, Jesus says, no, we need to feed them. He takes the problem on himself. See, that's the thing about Jesus that separates him from a lot of other of your special characters and other religions, is Jesus takes responsibility for his sheep. He feeds them. He takes care of them. Oh, and did I mention that in this passage, we're told that all these people somehow land on a green hillside? Now, if that's not representative of Psalm 23 and a good shepherd taking his people to a green pasture, I don't know what is. Because in Palestine, you have to look to find yourself a green pasture big enough to fit 5,000 people. It's not just sitting on every street corner, okay? As the disciples get this responsibility flipped back on them, we get to see part of the character of God, which is their obedience preceded the miracle. I wish I had the voice of T.D. Jakes to say, your obedience must precede your miracle. He could say it way better than I could. But let me just say that it is a hallmark of the Christian faith that as we obey the Lord, as we obey Jesus, we get to see him work in our lives. God does ask for our obedience, but then he is there. He is a willing help, and he has all the power. In fact, this is one of the few instances where Jesus taps into that creator power and creates something for us here. We see that 2 times. We see it when Jesus turns water into wine, but I think this is even more impressive because he takes 5 loaves, 2 fishes, and we got 12 baskets left over when the Creator is done working a miracle after his disciples obey. Jesus does not call the equipped, he equips the called. He called the disciples to fix this problem, and when they obeyed and decided to take what they have and go solve the problem, he blessed it. Man, does that not make you passionate for adoption? When you see foster kids and you know that there's tons of kids without a home and maybe you don't feel like you're equipped to solve that problem, adoption's one of the problems. What about homeless? Maybe God calls Christians to take what we have, take responsibility, and go try to solve the problem. And I wonder if we will obey God's call to solve problems around us if we would get to see his miracle. Guess I kind of quit having a conversation and went to preaching at you. Whoops.